let's have a look back at that race. And I guess it's the start, really, that was the crucial moment.
Exactly that. So the defining section on that whole race all came down to the very first few seconds of that race. So let's spin down into the start, and we can see the bundle up towards that pin end, and already those bows of the boats going across on that start line. And we've got a good few seconds still to go with many of the boats over. And it was a very interesting start to see why so many people put themselves that high up on the start line, that early in that bundle. So we saw overall 5 boats were over the line as they went away. We now see in that furthest boat in that gap, that was the British team of Fletcher and Biffle taking that jibe round, coming back into the start and rejoining. So straight away off the bat, they're already playing catch up. They're starting to refocus. You can't let that stress you out. You've just got to go back into your mode now and go into race mode. But then there were 4 other boats, of course, out there racing on that race course that believed they'd got away with it. If they didn't, then, you know, it was quite a schoolboy error to see how many boats were over, and by some margin at that start. But that's where suddenly the race course became a little bit easier for everyone. Of course, the umpires went out, pulled those additional 4 boats out, and that's what really set out this race course. So we'll go through to scene 2, which is the Windward Mark, and we can see how it all started to pan out. Fletcher and Biffle on that far left-hand side, just trying to play catch-up. They finished up last in that race, but also identified on that left-hand side, that leaderboard, you can identify the boats that were OCS with those light faded out colours. But at the top end of the mark, Fisher and Graf, they led early on, a little bit of pressure from the Fantella brothers as they came round in second, but they held their nerve, they went on through. There were just no mistakes being dropped in. They held their good amount of speed all the way through. And of course, for Hale and Plusso, it was just a matter of sailing their race, keeping in control, not making any silly mistakes to throw in those extra points. And so that's pretty much how the nutshell it all fanned out, just because of that start. And it shows that as soon as those boats push that line too early and boats aren't willing to go back for that OCS, that's where it panned out. So we'll skin forward to that finish and just capture that German team. Hale and Plusso, that final jibe in to protect themselves coming in towards that pin end of the finish line. That was enough they needed to do. Fisher and Graf, they are taking the win. The Fantella brothers are taking that second place that secured that bronze. But certainly we see a strong German turnout, but Hale and Plusso will take that win. So reasonably, as we talk about, it's certainly not an easy race, but an easier race for them by minimising the amount of points that were on offer, and certainly by Peters and Sterrett taking themselves out of the running for a medal as well.
I want to bring Evie in on a point that Eric and Thomas made during that interview, that they were trying to get a penalty on the British team. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to try and challenge them. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I think in a situation like this, it doesn't happen very often. So you don't get the chance at every race to practice this. It's not always that you only have one boat to lose. So for the German team, it was a perfect opportunity to try and match race them, to try and stay close to them, and to try and give them a bad start or a penalty or whatever it is. I mean, you can practice this in training, but in racing, it's very different because there's much more pressure. And I think for them, of course, they are really happy that they won. But I think more than that, they really wanted to practice that and to stay in front of them at the start and to play a little bit, how do you say it, catch a mouse? Huh? Yep. Because you don't get that opportunity very often, and it can happen at the Olympics. And if that's the first time that you do this, then you're probably going to be quite scared. So the more confident you are in match racing, the better it is for your performance.
And to really reinforce that, we look at this event as obviously quite a major event within the calendar. To the sailors, it is a stepping stone to where they're trying to get. So in that sense yes, they want to go out and win, but exactly that. You need to be able to do these skills under pressure, and these are the times to be able to do it. And, you know, the World Championships, a lot rides even higher on it. But again, if you're given the opportunity to be able to go out and practice those skills and push those elements, they will do, and that's it. So a great bit of practice on that start line, and a costly error through several of the teams.